The HFY fleet emerged from hyperspace with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. Admiral Zexthor stood on the bridge of the flagship Times Dominance Asterisk, his 4 eyes scanning the primitive world below. The third planet orbiting this unremarkable yellow star housed the newest species to catch the Galactic Empire's attention, humans. Pathetic, Zexthor muttered, his mandibles clicking in amusement. The planet showed signs of basic industrialization, scattered cities connected by primitive transportation networks, and what appeared to be early spaceflight capability. Nothing that should concern a species that had conquered 47 star systems. Commander Vexital approached, her scaled hide gleaming under the bridge lights. Admiral, our sensors detect approximately 8 billion inhabitants across 7 continents. Their technology appears to be roughly equivalent to our ancestors from 3,000 years ago. Perfect, Zexthor replied, his tail swishing with anticipation. The Emperor wants this system for its mineral wealth, and these primitives will make excellent slaves. Begin standard bombardment protocols. Target their military installations first, then major population centers. Leave enough alive to work the mines. The human colony world of New Eden had been peaceful for nearly 2 centuries. Governor Sarah Chen stood in the Planetary Defense Center, watching the massive alien vessels position themselves in orbit. The ships were unlike anything in human databases, organic-looking hulls that seemed to pulse with their own life, weapon ports that glowed with ominous energy. "Ma'am," said Defense Coordinator Marcus Webb, his voice steady despite the circumstances, "we're detecting 37 vessels, each approximately 2 kilometers in length. Energy signatures suggest weapons far beyond our current defensive capabilities." Sarah nodded grimly. New Eden was one of humanity's outer colonies, established to mine rare Earth elements and serve as an early warning station for threats from the galactic rim. It wasn't supposed to face anything like this. "Have they attempted communication?" she asked. "Negative, ma'am. They've ignored all hailing frequencies." Webb paused, listening to his earpiece. "Wait, we're receiving a transmission now." The main screen flickered, displaying the alien commander. His appearance was intimidating reptilian features, multiple eyes, and a bearing that spoke of absolute authority. When he spoke, the translation matrix struggled to keep up with his rapid, dismissive tone. "Inferior species of the third planet. I am Admiral Zexthor of the HFY Empire. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender immediately, and some of you will be permitted to live as laborers, resist, and face annihilation. You have one of your planetary rotations to comply." The transmission cut out, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Sarah felt a cold anger building in her chest. She'd spent 30 years in colonial administration, building New Eden from a handful of prefab shelters into a thriving world of 8 million souls. The idea of these aliens treating human beings as disposable assets was unthinkable. "Coordinator Webb," she said calmly, "implement Protocol 7. Webb's eyes widened. Protocol 7 was theoretical, a last resort measure developed by Earth's Strategic Defense Initiative decades ago. It had never been tested in real combat conditions. "Ma'am, are you certain? Protocol 7 is our only option," Sarah finished. "And Marcus? Send a priority transmission to Earth Command. Full data burst. Everything we have on these ships and their capabilities. If we don't make it, make sure humanity knows what's coming." 24 hours later, the bombardment began. The first wave of energy blasts struck New Eden's capital city of Haven. The planetary shield generators, humanity's most advanced defensive technology, held for exactly 43 seconds before overloading in spectacular fashion. Azure energy beams, each containing the destructive force of a nuclear weapon, rained down from orbit like the judgment of angry gods. Skyscrapers vaporized in pillars of superheated plasma. The city's fusion reactors were targeted specifically, creating secondary explosions that lit up the night sky for hundreds of kilometers. In the space of 10 minutes, Haven, home to 2 million people, was reduced to a smoking crater. Admiral Zexthor watched the destruction with satisfaction. Impressive efficiency. Their shields were more robust than expected for such primitives, but ultimately futile. Continue bombardment. Target the secondary cities. The assault continued for 6 hours. New Geneva, Port Alpha, Meridian Station. Each city died in turn, under the relentless orbital bombardment. The humans' military installations lasted slightly longer, their hardened bunkers and underground facilities providing brief protection before the Kethvar weapons found them. "Sir," reported Commander Vextal, "we've eliminated approximately 70% of their major population centers. Remaining resistance appears minimal. Should we begin landing operations?" Zexthor studied the tactical display. Scattered human settlements still showed signs of life, but their defensive capability had been effectively neutralized. It was time for the next phase, securing valuable resources and rounding up survivors for slave labor. Deploy the assault shuttles. Begin with Sector 7. Our geological surveys indicate the richest mineral deposits are located there. And Vexital? Yes. Admiral? Make it clear to any survivors we encounter that resistance will result in immediate execution. These humans need to understand their new place in the natural order. But even as the first Kethvar shuttles descended toward New Eden's surface, deep beneath the planet's crust, ancient systems were awakening. Protocol 7 hadn't been designed as a weapon, it was something far more subtle and far more dangerous. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been working in the deep labs when the bombardment began. 3 kilometers underground, the research facility had been built to withstand almost any conceivable disaster. As the planet shook above her from the alien attack, she initiated the final sequences of humanity's most classified project. "Genesis Protocol is active," she reported over the emergency communication network. "Deployment in T-6 hours and counting." The few surviving command posts that received her transmission didn't respond, they couldn't. Most of the planet's leadership was dead. The government centers vaporized in the first wave of attacks. But the automated systems didn't need human oversight anymore. They had been designed to function independently, to carry out their purpose, even if every human on New Eden perished. In the Deep Lab's central chamber, vast biomechanical assemblies hummed with power. What the Kethvar had interpreted as primitive technology was actually something else entirely, a carefully crafted illusion. Humanity's real capabilities had been hidden, waiting for the day when they would be needed. The aliens had made a critical error in their assessment. They had seen New Eden's surface infrastructure and assumed it represented the full extent of human achievement. They had not considered what might lie beneath, what desperate measures a species might take when faced with extinction. As the first Kethvar soldiers set foot on New Eden's soil, the countdown continued in the depths below. The aliens celebrated their easy victory, already making plans to strip mine the planet's resources. They had no idea that their bombardment had not destroyed humanity's defenses, it had activated them. In the ruins of Haven, a small group of survivors huddled in the remains of a subway station. Among them was Dr. James Patterson, former head of New Eden's xenobiology department. As Kethvar search teams prowled the rubble above, he whispered to his companions the words that would soon Admiral Zexthor should have been celebrating. The human colony world lay in ruins. Its major cities reduced to smoldering craters. Its military installations obliterated. Kethvar ground forces had secured the primary mining sites with minimal resistance, and slave processing centers were already being established. By all measures, the conquest had been a complete success. So why did he feel increasingly uneasy? "Status report, Commander Vexistal," he ordered, his tail twitching with agitation. Vexistal consulted her tactical display, her expression troubled. "Sir, we've secured 17 of the 23 designated resource extraction sites. Slave acquisition is proceeding according to schedule, approximately 400,000 humans captured so far. However, we're experiencing some irregularities." "Explain." "Several of our ground teams have reported equipment malfunctions, weapons losing power, vehicles breaking down, communication systems developing interference patterns. Our engineers attribute it to electromagnetic residue from the bombardment." But what, Commander?" Vexital hesitated. "Sir, some of the malfunctions are too specific, too targeted. It's as if something is systematically learning our technology and finding ways to disable it." Zexthor's mandibles clicked dismissively. "Impossible. These humans barely possess spaceflight capability. Continue the operation." But even as he spoke, Reports continued streaming in from the surface. Equipment failures were escalating, and ground teams were reporting strange phenomena, areas where electronic devices functioned normally one moment and died the next, as if some invisible force was moving through the planet's ecosystem. 3,000 kilometers below the planet's surface, Dr. Elena Vasquez monitored the progress of Genesis Protocol with grim satisfaction. The aliens had given humanity exactly what it needed: most time and justification. Phase 1 deployment successful, she reported to the few remaining command bunkers. Nano-assembler swarms have achieved 60% distribution across the primary theaters. Beginning Phase 2, in approximately 4 hours. What the HFY couldn't understand was that humanity's true achievement wasn't faster than light travel or energy weapons. It was biotechnology so advanced it appeared magical. For 2 centuries, human colonies had been seeded with dormant systems, microscopic machines designed to activate only in the event of existential threat. The bombardment had triggered these systems across New Eden. What the aliens interpreted as electromagnetic interference was actually humanity's ultimate weapon, awakening billions of microscopic machines, each no larger than a virus. Beginning their pre-programmed mission, Captain Rex Vall led the 7th Assault Battalion through the ruins of what had once been New Geneva. His orders were simple: secure the geothermal power plants and establish a forward operating base. The mission should have been routine. Humans were weak, their weapons primitive, their technology laughable. But something was wrong. "Sir," reported Sergeant Kex Thor, his voice crackling through the comm system. "My pulse rifle just died. Complete power failure." Rex Vall frowned. "Check your power cell." "Already did, sir. Cell shows full charge, but the weapon won't initialize. It's like something is interfering with the firing mechanism itself." Before Rex Vall could respond, similar reports came from across his unit. Weapons failing, scanning equipment going dark, even basic communication devices developing static-filled dead zones. Within an hour, half his battalion was effectively disarmed. "This is impossible," he muttered, examining his own weapon. The technology was based on principles the HFY had perfected over millennia. Nothing on this primitive world should be able to interfere with it. That's when they encountered the first human survivor who wasn't running or hiding. Dr. James Patterson emerged from the ruins of a collapsed building, his hands empty, his expression calm. Rex Vall's soldiers immediately surrounded him, their remaining functional weapons trained on the frail-looking human. "You," Rex Vall barked through his translator. "Where are the others of your species hiding?" Patterson smiled sadly. "Captain, it is Captain, isn't it? I can tell by your rank insignia, you're asking the wrong question. The only question is whether you cooperate or die." "No," Patterson said quietly. "The question you should be asking is why we let you land." Rex Vall felt a chill run down his spine. "Let us? Did you really think a species capable of interstellar colonization would build cities without defenses? Did you assume we'd put 8 million people on a resource-rich world without considering how to protect them?" The human gestured to the ruins around them. "What you destroyed were facades, Captain. Beautiful, functional facades, but ultimately expendable. The real New Eden was always down there." He pointed toward the ground. "You're lying. Our orbital scans detected exactly what we wanted them to detect. We've been preparing for this day for 2 centuries, Captain. Ever since we realized we weren't alone in the universe, we've been asking ourselves one question: what do we do when the wolves come calling?" As if summoned by his words, Rex Vall's remaining equipment began failing in rapid succession. Comm units died, power cells drained. Even basic environmental suits started reporting system errors. "What is this?" Rex Vall demanded. Patterson's smile was patient, almost pitying. "Evolution. Captain. We couldn't match your weapons or your ships, so we built something better. We built adaptation itself." In orbit, Admiral Zex Thor was receiving increasingly disturbing reports. Ground forces across the planet were reporting widespread equipment failures. Even worse, the humans they had captured for slave labor were beginning to escape, not through organized rebellion, but because the containment technology simply stopped working. "Sir," Commander Vextal announced, her voice tight with concern, "we're losing contact with surface teams across multiple sectors. It's not enemy action. Their equipment is simply failing. That's impossible. Our technology has proven superiority across 47 worlds. Admiral. The communications officer's voice cut through the bridge. Priority transmission from Earth. It's addressed to us specifically. Zexthor's blood chilled. Earth, the human homeworld. How could they possibly know about the attack so quickly? New Eden was weeks away from Earth, even by hyperspace travel. Put it through. The main screen flickered, revealing an elderly human woman in a simple blue uniform. Her expression was serene, almost grandmotherly, but her eyes held depths that made Zexthor unconsciously step backward. Admiral Zexthor of the Kethvar Empire, she said, her voice carrying easily across the bridge. I am Admiral Rebecca Zhang, Fleet Commander of Earth's Stellar Defense Force. We received Dr. Patterson's data burst approximately 18 minutes after you began your bombardment of New Eden. Zexthor found his voice. Impossible. New Eden is 23 light-years from your homeworld. Quantum entanglement communication, Admiral. We've had it for 50 years. Every human colony is in real-time contact with Earth. Did you really think we'd send our children to the stars without a way to call home? The human woman leaned forward slightly. But that's not why I'm calling. I'm calling to give you a choice, Admiral. You have approximately 3 hours before Genesis Protocol reaches full deployment on New Eden. I suggest you use that time to withdraw your forces and depart the system. You threaten us? Your world lies in ruins. Your people are captured or dead. Admiral. Zhang interrupted, her voice still maddeningly calm. You've made a fundamental error in your assessment of humanity. You saw our cities and assumed that was our civilization. You saw our technology and assumed that was our capability. You saw our peaceful nature and assumed that was our weakness. The screen behind her changed, showing a star map of local space. Dozens of systems showed green dots, human colonies. But now, pulsing red alerts were appearing at regular intervals across the map. Every human world is equipped with Genesis Protocol, Admiral. It's a gift we give to each of our colonies, a guarantee that no matter what happens, humanity will survive, will adapt, and will remember who its friends are. Her eyes hardened. And who its enemies are. Zexthor stared at the display. You're bluffing. Your species doesn't have the capability. To do what, Admiral? To create self-replicating molecular machines that can adapt to and neutralize any technology they encounter? To build defensive systems that learn from attack and become stronger? To ensure that anyone who hurts our children faces consequences that span generations? The display zoomed in on New Eden, showing energy readings that made no sense. The planet's entire ecosystem was beginning to pulse with organized electromagnetic activity, as if the world itself was awakening. Genesis Protocol isn't a weapon, Admiral. It's evolution in real time. Every piece of Kethvar technology on New Eden is being analyzed, cataloged, and countered. Your soldiers' equipment isn't malfunctioning, it's being systematically disabled by machines smaller than their thoughts. Zexthor felt something he had never experienced in 4 decades of conquest. Fear. And the beautiful thing about evolution, Admiral, is that it doesn't just adapt, it remembers. Every adaptation made on New Eden will be transmitted to every human world. Every weakness found in your technology will be shared across our species. You came here to conquer one world, but you've just taught 8 billion human colonies exactly how to defend themselves against the Kethvar Empire. The transmission paused as Zhang consulted something off-screen. 3 hours, Admiral. Genesis Protocol will reach critical mass in 3 hours. After that point, anything with Kethvar technology within 100,000 kilometers of New Eden will simply stop working. I'd recommend being somewhere else when that happens. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Zexthor stared at the tactical display, watching as more and more ground teams reported equipment failures. His invasion force, proud conquerors of dozens of worlds, was being systematically neutralized by an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't fight, and couldn't understand. Commander Vextal, he said slowly, begin evacuation procedures. All forces to return to orbital positions immediately. Sir? Zexthor looked at the planet below, where invisible machines were rewriting the rules of warfare itself. "We're not withdrawing, Commander. We're learning why the humans have never been successfully conquered." As Kethvar shuttles began lifting off from New Eden's surface, deep beneath the planet, Dr. Elena Vasquez watched her screens with quiet satisfaction. Phase 2 was proceeding exactly as designed. Soon, the galaxy would understand that humanity had never been as helpless as it appeared. The real demonstration was about to begin. Ho! Across the galaxy. They think they've won, but they have no idea what they've just awakened. Humanity doesn't just build weapons of war, we build weapons of existence itself. And very soon, they're going to learn the difference between conquering a planet and surviving the consequences. The deep laboratories continued their work in silence, preparing to show the Kethvar Empire exactly why humanity had never been conquered. Why they had spread to dozens of star systems in just a few centuries, and why attacking Earth's children was the last mistake their species would ever make. The real war was about to begin, and the aliens' bombardment had been. Admiral Zexthor had commanded fleets in 47 successful planetary conquests. He had seen civilizations rise and fall, witnessed the death of entire species, and never once questioned the absolute supremacy of Kethvar military technology. As his evacuation shuttles raced toward orbital positions, he told himself this was merely a tactical withdrawal, a temporary setback against an unexpectedly prepared enemy. He was wrong on every count. "Admiral," Commander Vextal reported, her voice strained. "All surface teams have been extracted, but we're experiencing concerning readings from the planet itself." Zexthor studied the tactical display. New Eden's electromagnetic signature was unlike anything in Kethvar databases. The entire planetary surface pulsed with organized energy patterns, as if billions of tiny machines were coordinating across continents, which, he was beginning to suspect, was exactly what was happening. Time remaining until the humans' deadline? 47 minutes. Sir. Then we have time to demonstrate that the Kethvar Empire doesn't retreat from primitives. Zexthor's mandibles clicked with forced confidence. Prepare orbital bombardment arrays. If these humans want to play with molecular toys, we'll show them the power of proper warfare. Target every power source, every population center, every square kilometer of that world. Reduce it to molten slag. But as the Dominance's weapon systems charged for a second bombardment, something unprecedented happened. The energy readings spiked, and every piece of Kethvar technology on the ship began experiencing cascading failures. "Sir," the weapons officer's voice carried panic. "Primary batteries are offline. Secondary systems are failing. It's like something is interfering with our quantum matrices." Zexthor spun toward the tactical officer. "How is that possible? We're in space. Even if they have some surface-based interference system." "Admiral," the communications officer interrupted, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm detecting launch signatures from the planet's surface. Thousands of them." On the main display, New Eden suddenly lit up like a festival world. Streams of light too small to be ships, too organized to be natural, were rising from the planet's surface. They moved with impossible coordination, as if guided by a single intelligence. And they were heading directly for the Kethvar fleet. "Missiles?" Zexthor asked hopefully. "Negative, sir. These readings are... I've never seen anything like this. They're too small for vessels, but too complex for projectiles. Each one appears to be generating its own power signature." Dr. Elena Vasquez watched the launch from her position in the deep labs with profound satisfaction. Genesis protocol had exceeded all projections. The microscopic machines hadn't just adapted to Kethvar technology, they had learned to reproduce it, improve it, and weaponize it. "Genesis swarm deployment successful," she reported to the few remaining command centers. "Estimated time to fleet contact: 18 minutes. What the Kethvar were seeing wasn't missiles or ships, it was evolution given wings. Each projectile was actually a cloud of billions of nanomachines, programmed with every piece of data gathered from the alien equipment over the past 6 hours. They had learned the quantum frequency signatures of Kethvar technology, analyzed the molecular structure of their hull materials, and mapped the energy flow patterns of their power systems. And now they were going to put that knowledge to use. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, his voice cracking, "the objects are accelerating beyond any possible propulsion system. Current velocity is... This can't be right. They're approaching significant fractions of light speed." Zexthor felt his world crumbling. "Defensive systems! All batteries! Target those objects!" "Sir, weapons are still offline. All offensive systems are experiencing cascading failures." The first Genesis swarm reached the outermost Kethvar vessel 12 minutes later. The destroyer times conquest times had time to register the approaching cloud of microscopic machines before its hull began changing at the molecular level. To the horrified observers on the remaining ships, it looked like the times conquest times was dissolving. Its proud hull, forged from metals that had resisted the weapons of 100 conquered species, simply came apart. Not in an explosion or a burst of energy, it just stopped being a ship and became something else. "What in the void of space is happening to them?" Vextal whispered. Her answer came as the nanomachine cloud finished its work. Where the times conquest times had been, a new structure hung in space. Something that looked like a hybrid of Kethvar and human technology, but improved beyond recognition. It was sleek, efficient, and radiating power signatures that dwarfed anything in the Imperial fleet. Then it turned its weapons on the nearest Kethvar ship. "All vessels," Zexthor screamed into his communicator. "Emergency hyperspace jump. Retreat to minimum safe distance." But Genesis Protocol had learned about Kethvar hyperspace technology too. As the fleet's jump drives initialized, the converted ship fired. Not energy beams or projectiles, it fired more nanomachine clouds. Clouds that specifically targeted hyperspace generation systems. One by one, the Kethvar fleet found itself trapped in normal space, surrounded by an enemy that was literally transforming their own ships into superior versions of themselves. The cruiser times, domination times, became a sleek vessel that generated its own hyperspace fields without visible engines. The carrier times, supremacy times, was restructured into something that looked like it had grown rather than been built, its hangar bays now launching swarms of impossible fighters that moved like living things. Admiral Zexthor watched his fleet, the pride of the Kethvar Empire, being systematically harvested and transformed into something beyond his understanding. When the nanomachine cloud reached the time's dominance asterisk, he felt the ship shudder as microscopic invaders began rewriting reality at the atomic level. "Admiral," Vexatal said quietly, "I'm detecting a transmission from Earth." Admiral Zhang appeared on the screen again, but now she was flanked by other humans, scientists, military officers, and individuals whose very presence suggested capabilities beyond conventional warfare. "Admiral Zexthor," Zhang said pleasantly, "I trust you're beginning to understand why we gave you a warning." "Ho." Zexthor could barely speak. Around him, the Time's dominance's Time's bridge was transforming. Control surfaces flowed like liquid metal, reconfiguring into more efficient designs. Systems he'd never seen before came online, displaying information in ways his mind struggled to process. "This is impossible," he managed. "No species can rewrite matter at this scale." "Admiral, may I introduce Dr. Sarah Chen, Director of Humanity's Evolutionary Warfare Division." Zhang gestured to a severe-looking woman with silver hair. "Perhaps she can explain what you're experiencing." Dr. Chen stepped forward, her expression businesslike. "Genesis Protocol represents the culmination of 2 centuries of preparation, Admiral. We knew that eventually, humanity would encounter a species with superior conventional military technology, so we developed something that makes conventional technology irrelevant." The display behind her showed the transformation of the Kethvar fleet in real time. Ships that had taken decades to build were being reconstructed in minutes, their capabilities enhanced beyond recognition. "The nanomachines don't just adapt to technology, Admiral, they improve it. Every Kethvar ship in your fleet is now more powerful than when you arrived. The difference is that now they serve humanity's interests." Zexthor felt the deck beneath his feet shift as the Time's dominance times completed its transformation. His command chair flowed into a new configuration, interfacing directly with his nervous system in ways that should have been impossible. Your weapons, Dr. Chen continued, now generate energy yields approximately 300% greater than their original specifications. Your shields can now deflect attacks that would have destroyed your old configuration. Your engines are capable of hyperspace transitions that your original technology couldn't achieve. But why? Zexthor asked desperately. Why not just destroy us? Zhang smiled coldly. Because, Admiral, we need you to deliver a message. Around the transformed Kethvar fleet, space itself began to ripple. Human ships, real human ships, emerged from stealth fields that had hidden them completely from Kethvar sensors. They were massive, elegant vessels that looked more grown than built, their hulls alive with the same energy patterns that had transformed New Eden. The Terran Defense Fleet, Zhang announced. We've been watching your empire's expansion for 50 years, Admiral. Every species you've conquered, every world you've stripped, every civilization you've destroyed, we've recorded it all. The human fleet was enormous. Hundreds of ships, each one radiating power signatures that suggested technology decades in advance of what the Kethvar had encountered. They arranged themselves in perfect formation around the transformed alien fleet, their weapons conspicuously not aimed at their targets. You see, Admiral, humanity has a particular perspective on species that commit genocide for profit. We find it distasteful. Zhang's expression hardened. So we've decided to do something about it. Dr. Chen stepped forward again. Admiral, your transformed ships are now equipped with our latest nanomachine variants. When you return to Kethvar space, and you will return, those nanomachines will begin analyzing and adapting to every piece of technology they encounter. Within one standard galactic year, every Kethvar world will face the same choice you faced here. Surrender and accept new management, Zhang continued. Or watch as your own technology turns against you. Your ships, your weapons, your infrastructure, all of it will be upgraded to serve more humanitarian purposes. Zexthor stared at the human admiral in growing horror. You're talking about the conquest of our entire empire. Correction, Admiral. We're talking about the liberation of your empire. Every slave world you've created will be freed. Every species you've oppressed will be given the chance to choose their own destiny. Every resource you've hoarded will be redistributed according to actual need, rather than imperial greed. The transformation was complete. The Kethvar fleet hung in space. Their ships now hybrid marvels that operated according to principles their crews barely understood. But they were functional, more than functional. They were superior to anything the Empire had ever produced. Admiral, Zhang said, her voice taking on an almost parental tone. Humanity tried peaceful exploration. We tried diplomatic contact. We tried coexistence. But some species only understand strength. So we built something stronger than weapons or fleets or empires. She gestured to the display showing New Eden. The planet's surface had transformed as well. Cities rebuilt in minutes. Ecosystems restored. Technology integrated in ways that seemed magical. We built adaptation itself, Admiral. And now we're sharing it with everyone who needs protection from predators like the Kethvar Empire. As the human fleet prepared to escort the transformed Kethvar ships back to Imperial space, Admiral Zexthor realized the true scope of what had happened. They hadn't just lost a battle, or even a war. They had encountered something that made their entire civilization obsolete. One final thing, Admiral, Zhang said as the transmission prepared to end. When you return home, you might want to check your historical databases. We've been leaving clues for centuries, worlds that should have been easy conquests but somehow repelled invasion, species that developed impossible defensive technologies just when they needed them most, empires that mysteriously collapsed when they became too aggressive. Her smile was almost apologetic. Humanity has been gardening this galaxy for a very long time, Admiral. We just decided it was time to stop hiding. The transmission ended, leaving Zexthor alone on his transformed bridge, surrounded by technology that responded to his thoughts in ways he'd never imagined possible. Outside, the human escort fleet waited patiently for him to make his choice. He could fight, of course. His transformed ship was more powerful than ever. But he could see the future stretching out before him, a future where the Kethvar Empire's expansion was not just stopped but reversed. where their technology served humanitarian rather than imperial goals, where their strength was used to protect rather than destroy. Navigator, he said quietly, his voice carrying new harmonics that the transformed ship interpreted as both audio and neural commands. Set course for Kethvar Prime. Maximum speed. As the fleet prepared to depart, the final phase of Genesis Protocol activated on New Eden. The planet's ecosystem, now enhanced by nanomachine integration, began broadcasting a signal that would reach every human colony within days. The signal was simple. The galaxy's most aggressive empire had just learned why humanity's children were never left unprotected, and any other species considering similar aggression might want to reconsider their plans. The message was equally simple. You bombarded us? Cute. Now you've seen what happens when you threaten humanity's children. The lesson would not need to be repeated, and nothing more than an invitation to annihilation.